as the Russian government itself is fascist. It is the Republicans here in America who do not want us to support Ukraine. It is the Republicans who want Ukrainian children to be raped and burned by Russian soldiers. They want this because Russia's strength is their strength. The strength of a foreign liberal democracy is to our benefit, and the strength of a foreign fascist oligarchy is to theirs. So they support the oligarchy. The only thing we can do here is support the right people. There is no third choice. We either support Ukraine or do not. And the outcomes of supporting Ukraine are superior to those where we do not. I suppose we can support Russia. That is a possibility, but I don't suggest it.
Well, sure. I don't think we would ever do that as the United States, even when they were liberal, or even when the USSR fell. But even though at times what you're saying is super hyperbolic with the fascists,
I fully believe it.
Okay. So you fully believe that we should fight fascism everywhere and neo-Nazis and...
Of course. What else should we do?
Okay. So in that case, I think it would be good to focus this discussion on Ukraine before Russia's invasion or arming rebels, okay? From what you've been saying, it sounds like you have an incomplete picture of what happened before 2015, okay? So let me just tell you, if you were observing the events in Ukraine in 2013 and 14 and previous years, you would find that far more nationalist parties than the Republican Party, like the Svoboda Party in Ukraine, had been elected. In some regions, they had as much as 35% support in elections. So, from what I understand, I take you at your word that you're against neo-Nazis, fascists, and so on.
Thank you.
Okay. These, some, I'm not going to say, but some people in Ukraine are obviously descended from people that really didn't like Russia. And I can understand that because of the Holodomor and many other things. So in World War II, when the Nazis, the literal Nazis, came, they actually joined them and happened to, kill Jews, sometimes enthusiastically. Unfortunately, my own family, for example, two of my grandmother's sisters got murdered by 5-year-old children by Ukrainians. But again, that's way in the past. What I'm saying is, after the war, these things continued. Some of the Bandera, the AUN, and so on operated. Some of them operated out of sort of partisan, I don't know if you call it in English, Ukrainian, basically like partisans. Like people who are operating after a war, like the KKK. And so that happened. But my point is this: you would certainly be against that ideology, right? You would be against people who want Ukraine for Ukrainians and Jews and Russian sympathizers can leave or would get kicked out, right? You would be against that at least.
Of course, I would be nowhere near as enthusiastic about the defense of Ukraine. Zelensky's government was as fascist as the Russian government. In fact, if it was two fascist countries duking it out, my only interest would be in border stability. Just because fighting, there's no good outcome here, really. It's just suffering. I would be much less enthusiastic. I probably wouldn't even care if America supplied arms to Ukraine if they were as bad as Russia. Because at that point, we're not even while it's purely a matter of border stability. We might not.
So I want to say that the vast majority of Ukrainians and Russians are good people. I'm talking about, when I say good, I mean regular people don't want to kill each other. They want to marry each other. They want to raise children. They want to earn enough money to bring home and have dinner with their family. Okay? They don't really care much which flag flies over something 2,000 miles away. Their media will make them care. Their schools will definitely make them care. And the schools can be by whichever government program decides, pledge allegiance to whichever flag. And so they will be made to care. And I think that the people who grew up after 1991 are very different from the babushkas, who were in the east of Ukraine. The babushkas were coming out in anti-Maidan protests, and I guarantee you they're not astroturf. When you look at PBS Frontline, the battle for Ukraine, if you Google that, you'll see a lot of videos from 2013. What happened was, the perception was that the Maidan protests were in fact led by ordinary Ukrainians, started with students, as it often does, but then the most organized, and according to BBC, these are mainstream things from 2014, highlighting that neo-Nazi and far-right nationalist extremists were the most organized and the most effective in the uprising that toppled Yanukovych's government. What I'm trying to say is that if you were on a side that opposed the Nazis, you would find a lot of people in the east of Ukraine agreeing with you, and their motivation legitimately not astroturfed for coming out by the thousands in Kharkiv and Odessa, not just in
It's interesting that you mix one of the biggest motivators for East Ukrainians supporting or opposing the Euromaidan protests, and that's because being ethnically Russian, a lot of them had an ethnic and national bias against Russia. So you talk about rejecting nationalist biases, but a lot of the anti-Euromaidan people were themselves highly sympathetic to Russia on a cultural and national level.
Sure. They were. In fact, I don't reject reality. I am simply, there's two things. Recognizing reality as it is, right? We have our backgrounds. People grow up in Gaza. They grow up in Jerusalem. They have different viewpoints, depending on which side of Jerusalem they grew up on and so on. So that's reality. But then you also, I'm talking to you about their motivation. They came out, these old ladies, who are hysterical and calling for Putin to save them, okay, some of them, are not put there by the Russian government. They are literally people who live there. There are millions of people. And the other thing is, these people are currently disenfranchised since 2014. They do not vote in Ukrainian elections. How can you call Ukraine a democracy when millions of its citizens are disenfranchised? The same people that elected...
The timeline. First of all, the legitimacy of the support for the Jewish cause is irrelevant. I don't give a fuck. The majority of the Ukrainian people supported Yanukovych as a Russian puppet. That's Putin killed civilian protesters.
I condemn all that. But he was elected democratically.
He was.
Correct?
Well, I mean, he did cheat the first election, of course. The second time...
I'm not talking about 2004. I agree. That election was contested.
Right. The other time. And he fled, thus ceding the election.
Hold on. You're conflating his fleeing. Forget the... Can we please look chronologically before his fleeing?
Wait. But I wanted to address what you had to say. Right. And then you talk about democracy. You talk about this, that, the other. So what are we trying to do right now? Are we making an impassioned plea for the persecution of Russian-speaking ethnic minorities in the Donbass? What evidence is there?
Here's what my
keep in mind, by the way, that America today ethnically persecutes plenty of groups, and we remain a liberal democracy. Ethnic persecution is the rule, not the exception, all around the world. It does not make it good, but I don't like the implication that this in some way equates them to Russia, the fascist oligarchy that's bearing them down. There's a huge difference there.
That's a lot of agreement, but also you are triggered by Russia.
It's not, wait, stop. Wait, no. You don't get to just throw information out there.
I want to focus on that information.
Please.
I want to answer your question.
You talk for a while, okay? You throw out a lot of information which has a clear implicit message. No one here is dumb enough to miss it. You talk about, how can Ukraine call itself a democracy with this or that? You are positively comparing Russia to that. You may still say Russia is worse, but none of this information is relevant.
I just want to be I want to be clear. You're making a positive claim that Ukraine is a democracy. I want them to be a democracy.
It is
worse. Well, I don't know how you can consider something to be a democracy which disenfranchised literally a huge percentage of the population.
Every country on earth disenfranchises a portion of its population. They have a system which responds. The percentage of the population which elected Yanukovych, the Party of Regions, its voter base evidence?
Has been completely disenfranchised since 2014.
How so?
They cannot vote in national elections.
How so?
Their vote simply isn't counted.
Their vote? So just how? What?
Because they are in Donbass, or they're in Luhansk and Donetsk.
Okay. And what happened in the Donbass?
That's what I'm telling you chronologically.
It's an
23rd
occupied area.
So it's a democracy in which democracy is
Wait, are you
only for
are you
those-
blaming Ukraine for being invaded? Like, yeah, they can't count
No, I
votes
am
in
not
the
one
area
who's talking
controlled
about
by
blame at
Russia.
all. I want to be clear. I don't assign blame because I think it's useless for solving conflict.
Okay, why do you think they're not counting votes in the area currently controlled by armed Russian separatist military?
Because they don't like state law in the past. They didn't like the Minsk agreement, which called for, and again, were promoted by
Russia
France,
never followed
Germany, Belarus.
Okay, no, stop. This is I refuse to go down this road. This is too laughable, okay? It is
Why?
occupied territory. The reason
Yes.
the votes there aren't counted
agree.
is because there is a foreign military in that area. Ukraine
But
is
prior
not
to that-
Ukraine is not less of a democracy because there is a foreign military occupying an area which makes it impossible to fully contribute to democracy. That's
I understand,
ridiculous.
Bosch, but we've got to be able to do this. We've got to be able to go chronologically before a certain event, and then act as if this. We're not going to talk about this event yet, and just describe what led up to the event, okay? Without invoking future events as a rationale for past events, okay? So can we pick 2014, the Maidan, before Russia invaded?
So
before
when were
Russia,
they disenfranchised? Because, hold on, Yanukovych fled on February
they were
22.
disenfranchised ever since they went out to secede and protest the Nazis.
Okay,
Ever since then.
so to be clear, okay, so I want to tell you the window of time during which you're saying millions had the right to vote taken. Yanukovych fled on the 22nd of February. The Donbass was invaded just 1 month later, in March 2014. There was a 1 month gap between Yanukovych fleeing and the Donbass being invaded. So how could there possibly have been voter disenfranchisement of people in that area that was not a product of Russia prompting the invasion?
I think the most important thing here is to understand how we go about solving problems and describing them. Okay? So for me, I look at things systemically.
I really
look
want a
at-
direct answer to this question. You're telling me that in 1 month they passed legislation to exclude them from democracy? How?
No, effectively, they never voted again.
Because they were
mean, in
invaded by
national
Russia.
elections.
Because they were invaded by Russia. But you said
Look,
that this
I
was
can-
before
I can-
the Russian invasion.
It's a bit like saying, if you will permit me, it's a bit like saying, in 2006, the Gazans elected Hamas. I was following that election and I saw they elected Hamas largely because of the social programs that were superior to Fatah, not necessarily because of Hamas's stance of rejecting Israel's right to exist.
How can they
But
vote?
afterwards,
when they're invaded?
here's the point. Afterwards, they never had an election again.
Why,
So the
why have
majority
they
of
not had an
people-
election? Why?
Because the majority of the
Why, no,
majority
no, no,
of
no, 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 no. Why have the people in the Donbass not been able to participate in the democratic election in Ukraine? It's not disenfranchisement. It's another thing that happened. You're lying if you say it's anything other than.
No, you're lying if you're saying it's that simple. The reason that
No, if you can, no, 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 no. I will tolerate some banter, but on some issues you're so unmistakably wrong that I will not allow us to progress past it.
May I finish my
Civility
sentence
ends.
and then-
Civility ends here. Okay. So this is retarded. They were invaded 1 month after Yanukovych fled. You did this whole lead up talking about how the people of the Donbass were discriminated against, how they were persecuted, removed from democracy. How could Ukraine possibly be a liberal democracy if they would remove millions from the vote? And what actually happened? Russia removed them by invading. Any other framing of this event is lying. It's not just dishonesty, it's willful
just
lying.
because you said, I said the same thing back to you, that I'm lying, and I'm trying to rhetorically tell you.
You did lie. Because if I wasn't the kind of person who I knew about this, or B, Googled things while talking, I would have just gone on and said, oh, millions of
I am
people.
not lying. I am
Millions of
telling
people
you
were
that you-
disenfranchised by the new Ukrainian government. Oh,
Again,
of
I don't
course.
know what I don't see your screen. I don't know. But I will tell you, you can Google right now, Frontline PBS, the battle for Ukraine. All you have to do is look at what BBC, Newsweek,
What
and
election
others
were
said
they not allowed to
before
vote in?
2015. I'm sorry?
I'm not going to look up a specific documentary section. What election were they not allowed to vote in?
You can look up BBC Newsnight. You can look up any time from that time.
Just any BBC Newsnight, like any of them?
No, BBC Newsnight about the neo-Nazis in the Maidan. Like literally, they went. They interviewed all of them. They actually went, and back then it was a
Okay,
completely
so
different
you watched it. Share the knowledge with me. What election were millions
happy
of
to.
Russian-speaking people not allowed to participate in?
Okay. So you're conflating two things. You did this before with the invasion of 2014, all that. Fine. But now you're conflating two other things. You're conflating my statement that these people were never allowed to vote again, and therefore...
Why weren't they
Ukrainian
allowed to vote again?
Can I finish my thought
Nope.
and then I'll answer that question?
No, because you won't
Why
ever...
do you
No,
cut
no,
me
no,
off?
I've talked with you twice. I know you won't answer it. I'm holding it to you here.
I will.
Why?
I'll
No,
answer
no, no, you
your
won't.
question.
You won't. You won't. Why? Just you. Then you can continue. Why weren't they able to vote?
I'll hold you to that. They weren't able to vote in 2013 because at the time...
Wait, you were talking after... Wait, no, now you're conflating. We're talking after Euromaidan. That's what you said.
I'm trying to answer the question.
But you said after
Early.
Euromaidan that
Early.
isn't attributable to the Russian invasion.
Look, I'll just give you the answer you want to hear, and then I'll talk, okay?
The answer to
you
the
wanna
question. Yes.
hear. Yeah, the answer to the question you want to hear is that by arming the rebels in the Donbass, Russia has escalated the conflict, and I blame them for that severely. Because that is
They
what
didn't
led to
escalate the conflict. There wasn't. They started.
There was no conflict, really?
I'm sorry, did Ukraine have troops in Russia at the time?
Ukraine had troops in the Donbass.
You mean in Ukraine?
Ukraine killing young people.
Wait, no, stop. You're doing it again. They didn't escalate the conflict. Russia, a foreign nation, was not under attack by Ukraine. They initiated.
When are you going to give me 60 seconds of uninterrupted?
You can't say. They're like, oh, well, Ukraine had troops in the Donbass. Yeah,
Fine.
in Ukraine. That's Ukraine.
I'm
Donbass is Ukraine.
trying to answer as best I can, but I need 60 seconds, man. Can I just do that?
Okay, but if you lie in the first 5, I've got to interrupt you.
I'm literally trying to be as accurate as I can, let alone not lie, okay? So if there's anything I've said that's wrong, I'd like you to point out specifically what it is.
I
and give me a
have been.
chance
You
to
get mad at me
respond.
when I do
Give me a
that.
chance to respond. I didn't get mad. I simply said you're lying by omission, right? By focusing only on a small part of why they didn't vote. Sure, one aspect, one factor is that Russia got involved. Yes, that's true. Absolutely, that's terrible. And we shouldn't be, we shouldn't be, and no country should be arming rebels against the government. Completely agree. Stability was sacrificed. So, did you get what you wanted to hear? Now I'd like to spend.
Well, they
60
initiated the conflict. They didn't contribute to it. And I also just want to know how these poor ethnically Russian people were kept from participating in democracy.
I'm very happy to tell you, but it takes more than 10 seconds. I can't. If you're going to cut me off after 10 seconds, I won't do it. Well, thank you. And again, everything I'm saying can be backed up by CBS, BBC, Newsweek, and any mainstream source from 2014. Okay? So here's a timeline of events. I'll try to fit it in. I'm sorry, it will take me 120 seconds. 2 minutes, okay? But it's important. This takes place before Russia's aggression, okay? This, however, takes place with Russia's influence. Countries are influenced by other countries, especially folks like yours. So here's what happened. Yanukovych was democratically elected. So Ukraine had a democracy, and people were voting for their representatives and indeed their presidents. So when Yanukovych was elected, the time to the next election was about 2 years. Now, normally, if you don't like what the government is doing, you simply call, you wait for the next election and you vote. We don't want a January 6th. We don't want something in Brazil resembling January 6th, and we don't want that in Ukraine.
There wasn't.
You're absolutely right that what happened in the Maidan and the overthrow of the government led to a key state.
They didn't overthrow the government.
Okay, they overthrew the executive branch of the
No,
government.
he fled. They were protesting, which is legally their right.
What happened before he fled? What happened in the days before he fled?
Protests
Do you know?
outside government buildings, which is what
Oh, it
protests
was
tend to
way
be.
more than that. Do you believe January 6th to be a coup?
Coup attempt.
A coup attempt. This is January 6th times 10.
No, it wasn't.
So by every metric, by every description, carrying guns into the Capitol building, carrying guns into the Congress, overrunning barricades, by every metric, they overran the Congress. They went into the building. They had them in every sense of the word. And it was all started when right-wing nationalists, were a small minority, started firing and then escalated conflict because many people have guns.
This was several lies in a row.
This is on Wikipedia.
So
by the
no,
way.
it's not. And I ousted you on Wikipedia.
Go to Revolution of Dignity on Wikipedia right now.
There were massive protests, and the violence was initiated by police that fired in the crowd. Yanukovych also tried to pass through a number of highly opposed anti-protesters.
Also true.
Yeah.
So
as soon
it
as
doesn't negate what I'm saying.
it does.
So there was an
Wait,
incident.
I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. No, you lied every time
Okay, I'm
you give
gonna
something
read
specific. No.
verbatim
What's the
from
Wikipedia article?
The Revolution of Dignity.
Hold on.
I'm gonna read verbatim from it. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. I'm going to look for the section. One moment. I mean, it's an entire large article.
The first protesters were killed in fiery clashes with police on Khrushchevskovo Street on the 19th to 27th of January. Protesters occupied government buildings. To fired on by police.
What was wrong with that?
Huh?
What was wrong with those concessions? And
No concessions. He needs to be gone. Agreement. Following day, police withdrew from central Kiev, which has been under effective protesters. In all parts of the city, that day, the Ukrainian parliament voted to remove Yanukovych. 308. All of
talking about, hold on, I wasn't prepared. Police storms. Okay, one moment. I'm going to actually. I won't be able to do this in real time. However, what I'm trying to say is there was a time when the government offered concessions to Klitschko and right after NPR. They said it's too. Hold on, one moment. They said it's too little, too late, and he has to go. That's true. But if you look at how the violence spread, people say who started the firing, who started the guns. It turned out. And I will find this for you later, and I heard people.
Even if it turned out to be the protesters, I wouldn't really care. But
No,
what
it
I've
wasn't
read,
just
the
the
police.
protesters. The peaceful, the civilians did have guns. However, the nationalists were sparked the initial. People were wondering who fired the initial shots. You know, to start the wave of violence. And what I'm trying to say is that was the nationalists, right?
Even if that was the case, it wouldn't really bother me.
They are allowed to protest, but when they overrun barricades and enter the Congress building, wouldn't that look like January 6th?
Yeah, the problem with January 6th was more what they were doing. You know,
The House of sitting president. The House of sitting president.
yeah, well,
Or an elected president.
yeah, the difference is January 6th was them getting angry and denying the results of the democratic election, whereas in the case of Yanukovych, he was trying to turn the country into a dictatorship. You want to hear some of these provisions, by the way? Some of the stuff he tried to pass? This is
Oh,
crazy.
Yanukovych is not great.
No,
I
well,
agree
hold on.
with
Listen, my man tried to do a one-man coup. He was a Putin stooge, and when he realized that people wasn't going along with this anti-popular decision by the Russia was EU economically, he tried to essentially dictatorship. Listen to this, okay? Criminalizing extremist activities according to PI Ukraine. out on vague terms with a hefty fine for a first offense and a 3 years jail for a repeat offense, simplifying the process for the legal parliamentary abbreviation of criminal proceedings to a majority vote in the parliament, when prior review is no longer required by the parliamentary committee, extending and applying amnesty from prosecution previously adopted by the Verkhovna Rada to those who committed crimes against protesters, including Berkut security forces and other law enforcement officials. Essentially, legally, you could do whatever you wanted against them. Murder, rape, who cares?
Oh, one moment here. I found it, by the way. I found what I was talking about. So it's under detailed timeline, okay, under Revolution of Dignity, 18 February 2014.
Drivers of
So
motorcades of more than 5 cars parked in back of space that lost their driver's
What?
license at
No.
vehicle
What are you talking about? The night before the clashes, right sector called.
defamation, either by means of press or social media, carries a penalty of up to 1 year in jail.
What are you reading about?
Gathering and disseminating information about the Berkut judges or their families carries a penalty of up to 2 years in jail. I'm just reading how Yanukovych was trying to do a one-man coup by single-handedly undoing democracy.
Okay.
This
So
is
I
pretty
agree
bad.
with you. I am against authoritarians, as you can imagine.
Mandatory
But what I'm
license.
trying to get you to do is read Wikipedia under a detailed timeline, starting with February 2014.
All right.
Thank you.
Wait, where? Wait, on this page? Where?
It's under Revolution of Dignity, Wikipedia, under detailed timeline. It starts there.
Okay, here we go. I'm ready.
Okay. February 18th, the field metro staff service. The night before the clash, right sector, which I'm sure people know is the largest, called on its members to ready themselves for a protest in February. The Maidan People's Union also urged all concerned citizens to take part in the event. The student unions had agreed to join the protest. The Maidan Union reported on the morning the columns of protesters would begin a march. Now, that morning, around 20,000 demonstrators marched on the Parliament building. Okay, January 6th, they marched on the Congress, as that body was set to consider opposition demands for a new constitution and government. Last time you asked me whether they demanded a new constitution. In fact, yes, they did, and they got it. A new constitution and government. Around 9:45, the demonstrators broke through the police barricade of several trucks near the building, Central Club of Ukraine, and pushed the cordon of police aside, similar to January 6th. The clashes started after.
You keep comparing these just so I think this is completely based, by the way. I wish our January 6th.
Interesting. So you just said that you don't like what happened in Brazil. You don't like January 6th.
Yeah,
Now you're
that's
saying
because
you wish.
the January 6th protesters were fascists. Brazil, the Bolsonaro stands, were fascist. These guys were protesting Yanukovych turning their country into an authoritarian dictatorship.
So 20,000 demonstrators marching on the Parliament building, demanding a new constitution and government. To me, sounds like destabilizing the country.
For good, yeah. Destabilization is justified if it has good long-term outcomes. In this case, it did. The Putin stooge an authoritarian left, and they got a liberal democracy afterwards. Zelensky's government has overseen a great revival of Ukraine in a number of ways, in spite of the fact that Russia keeps nipping at them from the east.
Whoa. So, I want to understand your positions, right? Your principles. Are you saying your principles are good only for people you don't like? For people you like, go and do the same thing and you support that? Like, what are your principles for stability and overthrowing government? I don't understand. Can you give me a consistent...
Yes, it's good when good and bad when bad. It's good when fascists good and bad when good guys. Yes, I believe in the concept of ethics. Me and every other person who's ever thought about it for more
You
than
literally sound like the Republicans who believe that there was a good and bad and moral.
everyone
and a Christian.
believes in ethics, including you. You've been making ethical appeals the entire time we've been talking. Yes,
Sure.
some
I didn't
groups are...
expect
No,
you to
stop.
say it's okay.
Some groups are better than others. Fascists leading a government are worse than leftists leading a government. So I am willing to fight for leftist leading government, even if there's some hardship along the way, because the outcome you get in the long term is superior to the hardship you experience in the short term. This is also known as politics. This is how all politics works. Literally everything you do to fight for is going to be politics. You better make sure that whatever you're trying to get to is ethically worthwhile, right?
No, I'm completely. You're talking about a zero-sum game.
Okay,
Were
so wait,
Stalin
okay, wait,
and
okay.
Mao
So wait,
leftist
let me
in
let
your
me try to
view or
okay,
not?
let me try to okay, so no, we're not talking zero sum game. Okay, let me try this, okay? So the Nazis lost. That's good, right? 'Cause the Nazis were
Yes.
bad. Okay.
Yes.
Well, how can you possibly say that? Are you saying it's good when people lose?
Because they committed a genocide. They were going to kill more people.
Wait, okay, wait. I just want to get this straight. You think it's good when people lose just because you don't like other things they've done?
It's not just some people did something, bro. They killed an entire. They went after gypsies and Jews, and look at the Japanese, how they were genociding Chinese. Yes, that's bad.
They didn't think
Yes.
that was bad.
Yes, you're wrong.
How can you, bro? You sound like those Republicans.
Because I talk about killing, genociding millions of people is wrong. You're talking about if our guys win, the leftists win, we could totally destroy governments and overturn elections and constitutions. What is your standard here? So
Oh,
was
so,
Stalin
okay, one more
leftist
time.
or not? When he was robbing banks?
No, he was not.
Good or bad?
Stalin was bad.
Okay.
Overturning
He was a leftist though. Wasn't he?
overturning an authoritarian government is good. Popular
Was
protest,
Castro a leftist?
yes, and yes, he's better than
now a
Batista.
leftist. He was now a leftist.
Really depends on what day you think.
Well, on the day he was a leftist, was he totally cool in being food from the villagers and causing exacerbating famine? What the fuck are you talking about? The Great Famine in China?
Are you asking if I'm pro-famine?
No, I am simply saying that you are arbitrarily choosing a label like leftist, and you're approving the very actions that you rail against.
So
In the other case, because they create instability.
we're running all the way back. Like we're like beyond epistemics right now. We're like at the beating heart of the universe when we talk on these issues. Okay, I need you to
Right, what's your
understand this.
position?
I think
Consistency.
good things are good, and bad things are bad.
That's a tautology that says nothing.
Oh, okay.
Everyone
then,
thinks that.
then we'll build out one further, okay? I think that if you're going to overthrow the government, you'd better have a damn good reason. And it's a bad reason if you're a bunch of fascists who want to overturn the democratic election results of a liberal. But it's a good reason if you're a lunatic Putin stooge president on Black Friday or Black Thursday or whatever they called it, passed a bunch of dictator laws that like single-handedly turned your country into a fucking authoritarian state. If those protesters are going to like protest and go in the parliament building, I think that's really good, because in that case they're fighting for something good, the removal of authoritarianism.
Okay, so for the next 5 minutes, I just want to explore your position, okay? I'm just curious now. In many examples, so when Yeltsin fired on the parliament building in the 1993 constitutional crisis in Russia, he was doing it to protect what was the Chicago Boys, essentially, the idea of shock therapy, right? Having the Russians privatize most of the stuff, and the population, just like in Chile and other places, really kind of resented that. And so the Duma, which was the analog of the Rada, okay, in Ukraine, they did not like that either. So the communists, which I assume would be leftists in your view, went against Yeltsin. The United States supported Yeltsin, and Yeltsin ultimately dissolved Congress. He did what the Peru guy tried to do, but the reverse. And so basically, my question to you is, in that scenario, it seems to me that the leftists, the communists, wanted to oust Yeltsin with a vote of no confidence. You should be on their side, I guess, and against the Chicago school capitalists, correct?
I don't know enough about the situation to make a confident assertion. However, I do not generally agree with stuff that Yeltsin did or believed, so probably, but it would really depend on what they were looking towards.
Okay, so I'm just confused because I don't know if you support communists in post-Soviet Russia.
I am a
or if you
communist,
support...
but
You are.
I'd like to think I am, but I don't think there
If
are a
you
lot
are
of
a communist.
communists.
Okay, so finally I have some label that you accept.
I'm a
on yourself.
libertarian socialist, first and foremost.
So am I. I'm a left libertarian.
I don't know if
Which
I
is
think you're a
funny.
libertarian.
I've consistently said that I oppose violence, and especially by large entities like states. The reason last
But
time's
you're
conversation
defending
was...
violence by states.
I am not defending violence by states. I simply accept that we live in a world where it's still unfortunately happening because politicians can't do their job of
No,
preventing
because Russia
violence.
invaded. It is not the
Why did they
responsibility of
invade?
other politicians to magically prevent authoritarian governments from invading their neighbors. They've been doing
So
that
I think
for
this
all of
would be
human history.
productive. This would be a productive mode. I would ask you questions. So do
Thought
you
you believed in
understand
gun control.
that Putin
Yes,
has...
I believe I should control the gun. It's the men who need to be checked. Jesus, I shot myself! Ugh, I shot myself!
I thought you believed in gun control.
with Russia. So of course were very reluctant to. They abstained from condemning it in the United Nations and so on.
But of
They've
what
actually
relevance?
increased because I'm trying to tell you that tacitly, countries with billions of people, perhaps the majority of the human population, actually are on the side of what I am saying, which is that, and hear me out, is that the leaders of Russia and Stoltenberg and NATO and the United States have failed to avert a misunderstanding that
Wait,
has
hold
now...
on. Wait, really quick, really quick. This is retarded. I don't. First of all, do not assume that all the fucking desperately poor people of India, because their government has ties to Russia, are like ideologically supportive. If you go up to your average fucking Indian and are like, yeah, dude, so why do you believe that the people of the West have failed to prevent the bull? Like, they would just punch you and take your shoes, and you would deserve it. Now, even if we accept 5 billion, trillion, bajillion, million people are all evil, I don't fucking care. People believe the shit that they hear. Most people don't really think on this stuff that much. The Russian government makes, a great effort to propagandize to their people. Whether or not that large number of people agree or disagree is irrelevant. They better put
No problem. I'm trying to establish your consistent point of view. Okay.
Wait,
so when
nothing here speaks to my consistency. I don't derive my ethics from the will of the masses.
No problem. I'm saying self-consistent with yourself, right? You can be like Walt Whitman, where you say, "Do I contradict myself?" Very well, I contradict myself. I'm large. I contain multitudes. But I think that ultimately, if you're going to argue for something, you should have a consistent position.
I have not demonstrated any inconsistency.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand your beliefs here. Okay.
Okay,
So when I go to worldsocialistwebsite.org.
Please, just get to the point of it. There are
I'm getting
tons
to
of
the
people
point.
who
I'm trying
disagree
to
with
ask
me.
you a question.
Socialists are all
questions.
retards. I'm the only non-retarded socialist.
You're the only non-retarded socialist.
Yes, I don't care if every single one of them disagrees.
I am asking your opinion. NATO had a meeting in Spain. They had basically protesters come out. They were all leftists, all socialists. This was in May, and they literally protested against NATO because, in their words, NATO led to this conflict by expanding and not listening to Russia's bright red line.
Right, I don't care.
You don't care.
No, I've been arguing with these people for like the past 11 months. These people are usually
I'm
just
trying to
fascists who
understand
use
it.
leftism as a way of optically covering.
It's not optically. I'm saying there are millions of leftists out there, like the Pope, who said that NATO's bargaining
not a
are
leftist.
Pope Francis is not a leftist.
No. Is he a socialist? Does he believe in mass decommodification and seizing the means of production for the proletariat?
I think he largely does, and he derives it from Christian values like you shall have all things in common and many other teachings.
I
of
don't.
Jesus.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not a leftist. He's liberal leaning relative.
As you.
Yes.
Okay, fine. He's liberal. Fine. So on the Overton window, he's pretty left. Okay.
He's
These-
this socialist.
Okay. And these socialists, literal socialists, and the website, and literally everyone who is on the left here in Europe.
No, not literally everyone, but it doesn't matter. It could
Okay,
be
now- okay,
literally.
I'm
it
being
could be
hyperbolic.
literally everyone. Where are you testing the consistency of my values? Where is this happening?
You're making the claim that you don't like the right-wing nationalists who win. Fine. But what I'm saying is your ideological allies, and mine, in some sense, which is the socialists, for example, in Spain, I can go through many countries, but even within Europe, within NATO countries, I'm saying there is a large contingent of leftists who are blaming NATO.
Yeah, I
right?
argue
So
with
it's
that.
not completely an outlandish thing to say what I'm saying.
So it doesn't matter. Wait, it is. There are lots of retards. Everyone is retarded, except for me. That's my consistent position. I told you it would be the grace and temerity of a ballet dance.
But you can understand why that's not convincing to the rest of the world.
No, I make arguments to convince people, and that's something I'm failing to hear from you, by the way. You're testing my consistency. I will disagree with any number of people for any length of time. I love arguing. It's fucking...
I enjoy it too. In fact, I enjoy reasoned arguments that disagree with me.
No, there
I'm
are
just
no
not-
reasoned arguments
you-
that disagree
you
with me.
even
There's
believe.
just brain damage. That's it. That's all I've ever encountered, ever, from anyone, especially other leftists. They're the worst of them all. The only group worse than fucking fascists is other lefties who are pretending not to be fascists when they're talking. What?
No,
Where?
They're like-
Where
we
is the
have this-
inconsistency in my beliefs? Where do I
I can
err?
tell you. I can tell you the apparent inconsistency, and I'd love for you to cure it. I just would like to remark that libertarians have this issue too. Many libertarians think that they are the actual libertarians, and these other libertarians are fake libertarians. So I've heard it across the political. But sure. Well, I'm glad you think you're a snowflake, but okay. Listen, I do too sometimes. Here's the thing, man. It's that I've heard you say in the same conversation that you're against right-wing nationalists in the United States, and that if they started to take power, you would welcome overthrowing their government. But when right-wing nationalists in Ukraine, for example, participate on the side of overthrowing their government, you turn a blind eye to those nationalists as the descendants of the actual
I don't turn a
collaborators
blind.
of
Wait,
Nazis.
hold on.
Why?
Wait, don't take me out of
Sure.
this. I don't turn a blind eye. I celebrate it. Every right-wing nationalist Ukrainian participated in Euromaidan and Auschwitz is a hero to his people. Regardless of their ideology broadly, in that one instance, perhaps entirely by accident, they stumbled into the correct position. Even if they're bad people, they've been in that they've
not bad
champions of circumstance, perhaps.
I don't, by the way, this is where you and I differ too. I don't think that they're bad in order because they think that Bandera is a national hero any more than I think the southern people who wanted to secede from the north think that General Lee is a national hero and not put a statue to him. That's of course very terrible for black people living in the south because they had the KKK. So looking at a statue of General Lee, who himself may not have actually owned slaves, I don't know, and Bandera himself may not have actually killed people because he was mostly in a Nazi prison most of the time. So I am saying to you this as a Jew, as someone whose family was actually killed by Ukrainians, and after the war, the organization Bandera started continuing to do it. And even so, I'm telling you, I'd rather see people talk about statues peacefully than toppling a government and causing leading to what is happening now. You think there's no connection between the instability after Maidan
Sure,
and the
there is.
anti-Maidan?
There's a direct connection. Russia.
Of course there is. Yes.
Yeah,
they
Russia.
Had the Maidan.
And we're dealing with them now, so hey, maybe it won't be a problem in the future.
Imagine if Russia never got involved and never even announced Crimea. Okay. Imagine if simply
if Russia had never wait, Yanukovych was a Russian puppet though. Putin was literally giving him orders as a sovereign leader of another country. To remove Russia from Ukraine, you would have to like fundamentally restructure their society. They've been a country at siege since the moment the Berlin Wall fell.
I don't mean to insult you by saying this, but you don't have a lot of knowledge about. You're so simplistic about Yanukovych as a stooge of Putin. In
He was.
fact, Yanukovych was often a thorn in the side of Russia. In fact, sometimes Belarus actually supported Ukraine over Russia. It's much more complex than simply he did whatever Putin told him to
He
do.
did many
Okay?
of the things he was told. He was not literally an automaton, but he was absolutely 100% in the pocket. That's not even
But most
questionable.
importantly, look, I think the broad conversation, and perhaps one day we'll have a conversation about libertarianism versus statism, because you're clearly not a
I think that you're a statist.
I think that you're the guy who is literally talking about countries as if they are people. I am talking about individuals, and I'm saying that they should look at the idea of a state as being something secondary to not killing children.
I'm uninterested. Russia should stop killing children.
Yes, and so should everyone else.
Great.
You are
Very,
uninterested
thank you.
in
Very
any other
helpful. Walking into Auschwitz-Birkenau and reminding all the Jews and Nazis alike with great gusto that we should all get along and stop killing each other, and then walking out and leaving, and then you see the smokestack start rolling again. Yeah,
See, it's
unfortunately,
because
we
you
need to be a bit
can-
direct with our condemnation. When
Yes,
actual
because you
shit's
like to come in the end when everyone's already at each other's throats, and there's been a genocide, and people have freaking died and been genocided, and then you come in and you're like, these guys are bad. Okay, see, I'm
You're right. I would have gone into Auschwitz-Birkenau and said, yeah, these guys are bad. What else? That is true. I would have been very simplistic in my analysis while walking into Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Can you tell me what you would have actually said?
If I was one of the liberating, like the Allied people, I would be saying, I would be saying anything.
And here's what I would be doing.
If I was okay, listen up, Private. If you're in my fucking platoon, I see you doing a single fucking thing with those Krauts that isn't borderline war crime material. Okay, you're joining them.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you just said.
All right, never mind.
I'm trying to say that I look at what led up to that. I think that we need to look throughout world history at repeating patterns, and this is why you disagree with Chomsky and you disagree with me, because intelligent people in every other area of life look at patterns. That's what intelligence is. You look at what the main factors are and what they affect, and then you're like, oh, you see when you don't do this thing? Yeah, this is what happens. Okay?
Yeah,
So like,
you walk around Auschwitz-Birkenau and you go, wow, fascists really should never be in power, huh? And then you think, damn, 80 years from now, if Russia ever does an invasion on a liberal democracy, this time, I'm going to support them before they take control of the whole thing.
yeah, see, that's you. And what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's you. I was a little confused there. But here's what I am going to do. I am me, so I know what I would do, right? What I would do is what I told you last time. Put in place. Remember how I told you the insurance companies have seen thousands of cases. The banks have seen thousands of cases. International diplomacy and trade has seen thousands of cases. These are not new things. We already know.
Russia didn't respond to the sanctions. They're too poor, and Putin doesn't give a shit about his people. He just tanked the sanctions, built them into more money, and then kept doing the bad stuff.
Yeah, but you keep focusing on straw men. I'm trying to tell you what I would actually do. Do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear how we
would it
avoid?
have prevented the Russian invasion?
There's so many things that you could have done to prevent the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Are you kidding me? First of all, let's start with your values. You believe in democracy. You believe in people peacefully electing their leaders, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long
All
as those
Ukraine
leaders
had
aren't
to do,
killed.
whatever. All Ukraine had to do was for the next election. Wow, what a concept. That's what we want in this country. Do we want in this country?
Wait, you mean wait until
Yeah.
the next election before protesting?
No. Again, I want to be clear. Protesting is fine.
You seem to
Even-
take issue with it.
Well, I think that it leads. As you see, it can lead to toppling a government, like in all the Arab Spring countries, like in all the.
Okay, so
in
protesting.
Yemen.
Okay, what about just flat out like?
Totally not big.
How do you know that he's going to be in the election? He literally just tried to institute an authoritarian.
So you're happening like if Haiti right now has political unrest and you're happy.
depends on the government. If the government's really
For me,
bad,
it doesn't depend on the government.
it
as long as
depends
the
on the
government.
government. Okay, wait, hold on, wait. What about removing the Nazi government? Huh? What if back in 1994, a group
Sure,
of
Mr.
like
Godwin's
Jewish
law.
revolutionaries and like would-be partisans could have like stormed the Nazi offices and ousted them? Would that have been
You
good?
know what I'm gonna say? I said it last time. You go a little bit further back, and you make sure that the Nazis are never
You
even
can't
elected.
actually rewind time. That's not literally a power.
Then why are you rewinding time then?
Because I'm talking about what you would do in a situation where there's already an authoritarian leader, as there was with Yanukovych.
Oh, there's plenty of authoritarian leaders right now around the world. I'll
Yeah,
tell
they
you
should
what
be
it-
ousted.
You empower the moderates. You make sure to lift sanctions.
I don't want
from
moderates
North
in
Korea
charge. I
and
want fucking radicals.
Okay, do you support the JCPOA, the Iran deal, for example?
I support you.
Why? Doesn't it empower moderates and lift sanctions on these
Because it was the best
on
we could
these
get.
oppressive theocratic regimes?
It was the best we could get under those circumstances, and I think it was a lot better than not having it. Okay, that has nothing to do with protest. We're talking
Do you
about
think if Trump
international
hadn't come in and destroyed that agreement unilaterally with Bibi Netanyahu helping, argue against it, do you think if that didn't happen and today Iran had inspectors and had sanctions lifted, do you think that the middle class in Iran would be more integrated or less integrated
Wait,
with the
I'm
rest
in
of the world?
favor. I'm fully in support of like opening up relations with Iran and
am I.
appealing to the people there.
So am I. And guess why? Because under my value system, right, even though they may have a theocratic regime, there's crazy, even though the best thing in my view, I haven't seen anything better, is to put inspectors to make sure that this regime first of all doesn't develop weapons of mass destruction. And secondly, and more importantly, empower the middle class by removing sanctions to engage with the rest of the world. And I would do the same with North Korea or Cuba or anything else. These people want to trade with the rest of the world, even though they're communists. They want to trade with capitalism. Let them do it. So yes, I don't care what their repressive government is composed of. These people will die eventually, probably. Okay? So why not simply let the rest of the people engage with the rest of the world?
I just like it when good things happen and when bad things happen. If we're talking about
Oh, as
what we
opposed
can
to all
do
those
with
other
Iran, then the Iran deal was what we had on the table and we can do our best. But the ultimate hope with the Iran deal would have been something more in line with what I would support. Because the idea of opening up Iran to the rest of the world is that eventually the people there would have the information and support necessary to oust the Ayatollah. That ousting would go a hell of a lot more bloodily than Yanukovych's would, I will tell you that much. I don't think he's going to get a clean break for the country he was a puppet of. That's
Or
my hope.
It could even happen gradually, like some socialists believe that you can vote people in gradually.
I don't think
Dude.
the Ayatollah is going to let them vote him out.
He's gonna be dead, like in, I don't know, a couple decades maybe, or a decade.
A couple decades. Oh, let's just wait then. Perhaps Hitler rampaging across Europe. No, whatever date. Empowering the Iranian people to effectively fight back against the Ayatollah and his regime as quickly as possible under any means is probably the best thing you could do for the well-being of the Iranian people. The regime is not popular.
In one thing I completely agree with you. I think we are right, and we want to empower people and have more democracy, more power by the people. So we agree there. We also agree that good things are good and bad things are bad. I know all those other people are crazy, but we agree on that. Wow. But you see, the thing is, you're not saying anything. Yes, obviously good things are good. But when you self-identify with leftists, no, but when you say, you've said things like, I want leftists to topple the governments of right-wing people, and I think that, okay, but somehow to you, the right-wing nationalists of Ukraine were the leftists or whatever.
No, okay, wait, no, this is like some square peg, square hole, okay? It's not, so this is you getting overly focused on what people more report, not what's actually happening. The far-right nationalists participated in the Euromaidan protests in Ukraine. They have, as people, had bad politics, but the thing they were pushing for was right. They were pushing for it alongside tens of thousands of regular Ukrainians. What I care about are the actual actions. If Nazis want to do good things around the world, then fine, great. Literally the best case scenario. They don't usually do that, unfortunately. But if they wanted to, I would support them. And likewise, there are
I'm
people
not
who
the
are
only one who
individually
makes
good who
vigorous
support
statements.
monstrous
I happen
things.
to agree with what you said. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and it goes the other way with good people supporting monstrous things. It's about outcomes. So in this case here, you know, this is a fully coherent ideology. When it comes to revolutionary action or like toppling governments or whatever, yes, I think it would be okay to topple the government. It's not democratic at all.
How about not toppling and preserving, as you said, stability, which is your
No.
one of your
Stability is only good if the thing that's stable is good. If you're stabilizing bad things, then it's bad.
Who decides what is good or bad? You do?
Yes, correct. It's an ethical position that I hold and will argue for. But I think
Yeah,
most
but
people
don't you
would
think
agree.
that others would,
Wait, stop. Hold on. Stop pretending that you're an ethical nihilist. You've already agreed you don't like the
I'm
Nazis.
not an ethical nihilist. I just simply think that others should have access to your brain and your method of deciding what's good or bad, shouldn't they? Independently of your
why the Ayatollah is bad?
Dude, bad, good. This is what I'm talking about.
No, it's not. You're not talking about ethics. That's the problem.
Bad and good is what I'm. Okay, comma. This is what I'm talking about. This black and white. Christian versus Muslim.
Okay, hold
Bad
on.
versus
Wait,
good.
really quickly.
This is the thing
really
that leads
quickly.
to
Okay,
war.
wait, really quickly. Which I'm sorry. We need to keep pulling this. Okay, you said you literally lost family in the Holocaust, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you are now talking with an SS member. Okay, they're part of the Schutzstaffel. All right. It's the guy who was in Inglourious Bastards with the white beard. Okay, he's got like a
What
little
is the
Luger
year?
on his side. Okay, you're talking directly to this person now. Okay, he's got a little Luger. He does a little German tee, you know, the way that he did in the movie
don't
that
know.
everyone saw. Okay,
I didn't see the movie.
You'll now have to talk this guy out of his own behavior because every second this guy walks a bit, okay, he's going to be finding Jews in basements. All right, so let's talk with this guy. This is now the hypothetical conversation we're having. Okay, so you were claiming, who even knows what's good or bad? Is that it? Is that what we were
No,
on?
I would not. What I'm saying to you is your claim to unilaterally decide what's good and bad is not good for actual policy.
Okay,
because no
he
one
just said
has
that to you.
access
Okay,
your
wait.
brain.
Yeah, meine Freunde, your piggish Western arrogance saying this is bad, he says he's grabbing the blue this is not conducive to good behavior.
I don't know how you look with that mustache right now, but I'd love to see the video later. Can
I've
you
got a
send me
full
the
beard.
video?
It's safe. It's safe for me to do it. Do you
Okay.
understand the issue here? Like the world.
Dude, I'm really trying to like both understand you and get through to you. I don't know which to do because which one to aim at first. So now I'm supposed to react to a hypothetical Nazi that I'm talking to in 1940.
You are arguing for like a kind of total moral relevance.
No, I am not. I am
Okay.
simply saying your moral decisions you are self-proclaimed to be from your own brain, and every other leftist is an idiot. So if that's the case,
Yes, a recurring
first of all-
feature of my
first of all-
streams.
First of all, if every other leftist is an idiot, why would you want these leftists to topple governments if they're all idiots and they're not?
That's actually a
don't
good
scare
question.
yourself.
No. You actually hit on the nose on that one. I struggle with that sometimes. You know, it's oh yeah,
Finally.
revolutionary
Gotcha.
partisans one day, and the next day all these fucking MLs are out here doing fascism 2.0.
You're that lefty. Apparently, with his name, no, I'm just kidding, man. That's a great candidate. I don't understand you, man. I mean, on the one hand, you're saying all these things.
Wait, you're claiming you don't understand me because I said I think it would be okay to topple the Ayatollah's regime. Is that really like
Okay,
a
I get it.
disagreeable position?
Punch a Nazi, topple the fascist. I get it. And these
But
idiot lefties will
don't
do
say it
for you.
sarcastically. Yes, that topple the
Yes,
fascist.
no, I'm
yes.
not saying it sarcastically. You're so simplistic with it, but fine. Let's
Okay,
go with
but you
it.
start with that, and the complexity is how do you do that in the most helpful way? Because in
You
reality,
understand my position, though. It's a little bit more nuanced than yours, but
no, but we
the
haven't gotten to my
libertarian
no, wait, please. We haven't gotten to my position.
care? You don't care.
start.
Okay.
You start at the position you
Yeah.
start at is you
yeah,
know,
see, I'm totally not
please,
with you on
please.
this whole black and white.
toppling fascists is good. That's the position you start at. But then you think, okay, well, definitions for fascism kind of vary, and depending on what you mean by toppling, like what do you actually mean by that? And what you do is you go into it and think, okay, how do I actually apply this system in a way that makes the world a better place, you know? Because all forms of revolutionary violence are not equal at all. Most people will defend in concepts, like overthrowing the Nazis before they go to the Holocaust. Most people will defend in concepts. Very few people understand the logic of why. When do you actually draw that line? Because we can't see into the future in the real world. Nobody in 1943 could have envisioned World War II or the Holocaust in its entirety. They might have seen some signs, some indications, but not the whole picture. So how then can you ever make an informed decision on whether it's time to engage in revolutionary violence without knowing
How
whether or
indeed.
not it's going to happen in the future?
Perhaps you should not. But listen,
No! That's how the Nazis won! No, that's the wrongest answer! You can't say, oh, it's difficult to decide, therefore we have to let every fascist regime just march ahead until we get...
So, listen, I've seen revolutions and counter-revolutions. I've seen the Red Terror. I've seen the Jacobean Terror. I've seen all the revolutions have the counter-revolutions that believe, oh, we did it wrong this time. We're going to counter now revolution. Listen, I get it. Act, ready, fire, aim. I got it.
No, it was the Nazis, man!
The Nazis. It was the Nazis, man.
It was the
literally, that's a
Nazis!
great concept. What? So your
No,
whole
don't
worldview is
what
around
me.
Nazis?
It was the Nazis. If the SDP, if any of the communists or whatever back in Germany had taken over, they would not have done World War II and the Holocaust. The entire World War II Holocaust combo fun package was entirely a product of the specific ideology of the Nazis. It could have been stopped if you had a good
I
eye for
understand
that.
that, but what about the Red Terror? What about the Great Terror of Stalin? What about Mao?
I don't
Are you
defend
saying
Stalin. I don't
those
defend.
Nazis? Who are
Yes,
who are those?
Stalin was Nazis. Sure, probably.
Okay, Stalin was
50%.
Nazi. Mao
Yes.
was Nazi?
Mao is a fucking retard, dude. He tried to get farmers to do pig iron, okay?
Dude, the Cultural Revolution and the killing, was that Nazis?
Everything I don't like is Nazis. Can we move on from that specific
Oh my God.
rhetorical line?
Fine, I get you're astute and
No, I'm trying.
nuanced
All I'm
position here.
talking about here is that you need to have a standard for when it's acceptable.
Everything
to
I don't
try-
like is Nazi. Like literally, you're great for sound.
Thank you. If
Yes,
you
everything good is good, everything bad is bad, everything I don't like is Nazis.
Thank you.
And we have to
If
destroy Nazis.
you approach all potential revolutionary action as like it's equal, like, oh well, this could all go bad, so it doesn't matter. That is very, very, very
How about we first try the non-revolutionary
Okay.
action?
So the problem is that in reality, right now, the situations we're talking about have already reached the point of violence. Russia
Yeah, that's
already
what
invaded
you're doing.
Ukraine.
And shit has already hit the fan and millions of people are dead. I get it. That's when you
Ayatollah-
come in on your white knight and you say, you people must be killed in a court of law and then we're going to execute you triple times. Yes, I get it.
Yes,
How about
I
we
agree
prevent
with the
things
political
happening?
objectives of the Nuremberg trial. That
Okay,
is
we got
true.
it. We executed all the Nazis and now all the Nazis are
Not
dead.
enough,
So going
clearly.
forward-
Anyway,
Okay, so-
listen, stop. If you want to build a system that prevents stuff
forward.
like this from happening in the future,
Yes.
sometimes it's gonna come down to violence. We had this talk last time too. How do you stop Russia from doing this? Oh, well, I would create systems that would... Okay, what happens if they ignore those systems and just do it anyway?
Can we get into that for a second here?
Can you... Okay, I want you to construct right now some kind of international regulatory body, or any system at all, that could have kept Russia in space, right? That Russia could not have overcome simply by their... I'm just going to do that.
Yeah, sure. But before I do, can I read something for 10 seconds? A quote from 2008, Burns, then the American ambassador to Moscow, wrote to the Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Ukrainian entry into NATO is the brightest of all red lines for the Russian elite, not just Putin. In more than 2.5 years of conversation with key Russian players, knuckle draggers in the dark recesses of the Kremlin, to Putin's sharpest liberal critics, I have yet to find anyone who views Ukraine in NATO as anything other than a direct challenge to Russian interests. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the reality. Okay, the reality is we live in a world with countries and publics, okay? The Russian public, including the sharpest liberal critics of Putin, believe that NATO is being provocative to Russia's
They're wrong.
legitimate... Okay, but can I finish?
No,
I heard
you've already failed. No, stop. You've already failed. We've already hit the
need
first
to
hurdle. No,
recognize
stop.
the world.
It's the
They
first.
can be wrong. They can be
It's the
wrong.
first. No, that's over. It's over. It's done. If they can
They
be
could bomb.
no, if they can be propagandized into fighting against a system that doesn't actually pose a threat to them, then you accept my premise that there is no safety. It's not actually possible to prevent authoritarian governments from doing shit.
No, I don't accept your premise.
Because they could just lie to their public and
I don't think
manufacture
that
consent.
Okay, first of all, NATO is not a purely defensive alliance.
I never. Wait, stop! I know you got a fucking spiel, pro-Russian spiel you want to go on.
No,
we are
they literally
exclusively
bombed
talking about
Yugoslavia.
threat to Russia. Threat to Russia, which it did not exist.
So let me get this straight. An alliance that calls itself purely defensive, but yet attacked Libya and also
Yes,
Yugoslavia.
whatever you're about to say, yes, correct. Not a threat to Russia. Move on.
Yugoslavia is now splintered into multiple countries because of like these attacks. Look, I understand. Everyone thinks there's genocide going on. They need to intervene. I get it. Putin said the same
Thanks.
thing. Look, Putin thought there was in the Donbass. Like he literally was wrong.
There was, yes, he lied. He didn't think there was.
No,
he lied.
it's literally that's the justification for going into Libya. Gaddafi is killing
We're
his
not
own people.
talking about Libya. We're talking
We're talking about NATO. NATO is not purely a defensive
listen.
alliance.
We're not. I didn't say it's purely defensive. I said, and this is an objective
That's what they're
fact.
saying.
I claimed that they pose no threat to Russia, which is true.
How do you know the future? How do you know they pose no
Because
threat
I'm
to
just that smart. Can we move on from this? They did. You would have to be
Your whole
delusional.
argument-
You would have to
You're
be
not even-
delusional. No, stop. No, stop. Military interventions in two areas that people talk about. Fucking Serbia, which was doing a genocide, and Libya, which is a complicated clusterfuck. This has nothing to do with the idea that floating the concept of Ukraine maybe one day joining in with NATO poses some kind of military threat to Russia. It's
I'm
not
trying-
true.
I understand-
It's
I
delusional.
hear you.
It's delusional. They're psychotic. I'm
You're
hearing
threatening-
schizo
you're talking
voices
like-
are speaking to me from the rafters of my room, and they're telling me it could pose a threat to Russia. But you have to ignore them. We all hear them, and they're all
I hear
fake.
you. So your argument boils down to trust me, bro. I'm right.
No.
Now shut up.
If that's what resonates most with you, then yes. It's not a threat to Russia.
I'm saying if you came to the Russian public,
I don't
and you
care.
were on for peace,
Why would
you
I
be
care what
like,
the Russian
"Trust
public
me,
thinks?
bro,
Have you talked to
NATO
people?
does not pose a threat to you. They never will attack you. Now shut up.
Correct.
And stop worrying
Well,
about
hey,
that.
now we might attack them depending on how Ukraine goes. So, hey, we'll see. That's Putin's
which
fault
is
too.
my point. Things that could have previously not been the case become the case.
Yes,
because
you are correct. NATO doesn't pose a threat to Russia, instantly remediated by the fact of, oh, well, we could just invade the rest of the world and make ourselves a threat to NATO. Yes, obviously. Maybe Russia could just not do that, you know?
I am yes, Russia should not do that. No one should do that. No one should invade other countries and kill people. Correct.
Let's keep Russia from doing
Something
it
we
by
agree
funding
on.
Ukraine.
But what I'm trying to say is, okay, first of all, I kind of see your point. Your point is this. Look, trust me, bro. I'm smart. I'm right. NATO
You also
will
haven't
not.
explained how you can prevent Russia from doing this, by the way.
Yeah, because all I had the time to do is read a quote from Burns, the ambassador to Moscow.
You read the
He
quote
said,
before in our previous convo, and I don't care about it
I
now.
don't think I did. I
You
don't think I
did, and they lied. Who cares? NATO doesn't pose a threat to Russia. Doesn't. I don't. It's the height of delusion to believe this. That NATO, which has so far done like one, a genocide preventing bombing run in fucking Serbia, and two, the Libya quagmire, would go like, yeah, for my third round, I'm going to start World War III by invading Russia, a country with nuclear
We have-
weapons, for no
This
reason.
is what you have to accept. You're a smart guy, but you have to understand that other people make points that you have to engage with. You can't just simply tell them to shut up. And what I'm saying is, for example,
I've engaged with your points.
so my point, like my point applied, for example, in Serbia and Yugoslavia is the same. Serbia gave up. The reason that only 500 civilians died is because Serbia didn't continue to get weapons from Russia and other places.
Yeah, 'cause we
They
bombed
continued
them.
to fight against Italy. They gave up, and they gave up Milosevic. They gave up. They gave up. Okay, so that's good because the rest of the people were not. The country wasn't destroyed, you see, and their economy is not in the dumps, unlike Libya, which is a failed state and completely destroyed. Okay?
I would have thought
So, yeah, I'm sure you'd like that. Listen, all I'm trying to do is I like to not kill people and not help the resident.
Right, well, then you should
Sure.
then you should support systems to prevent fascists from taking power, because they are the ones who like to do that.
Anyway, I think that
No,
I have.
you can't. Hey, bro, dude, bro. Here's my question: How do I get my foot to stop hurting? Maybe stop stubbing your toe over and over deliberately against the wall.
Got
Uh-huh.
it. So by eliminating
Anyway.
all fascist governments, we're going to usher in a time of peace because, oh wait, Stalin was a fascist and now he's a fascist.
Yes,
on
correct.
Cuba.
I don't know why you keep going back to that. You've gone back to them. It's not, you've not gone back
Because
to
there's literally, I don't know who is an approved person.
Stop asking about approved people and start directly addressing stuff.
We
I
overthrow
believe.
everybody, and you're libertarian. Sure. Yeah.
Stop.
Who is-
It's my
who's immune
views,
to-
my position.
Your position. Okay. What about what I'm saying? Can I say something now? I've been listening to your position.
Well, can I get some way of preventing Russia from having done that? Oh my God! It's
Of course. You prevent Russia from having done this 20 different ways. You allow, for example, if Putin had applied to NATO when he first wanted to in 2001, and NATO would have accepted him, boom, the whole thing is solved, right?
Okay.
That's
Well,
what-
okay. Well, we didn't want him in our club
Yeah, why?
because he's smelly. What else? Would you say?
Yeah, you're so flippant. Man.
No,
really-
it's just like, thank you for your advice. So, are you saying then the best thing that we can do to prevent fighting is to invite as many countries as possible into NATO?
One of the things we could do is require our elected leaders to do their job and to do it in the open and not behind closed doors. So when Gorbachev got the promises from NATO not to expand, I would have required them
They
to
weren't
sign that.
promises. They were not signed into paper. Also, I
not?
want NATO to
Why not?
expand.
Why not?
Because Gorbachev is retarded. What do you mean? He didn't get him on paper.
Okay, so now we've got two retarded situations.
Yes,
And what
they're
about-
all retarded situations. You can't
Yes, our
base foreign
politicians-
policy based on promises that aren't written down. How does that? What, like, oh yeah, our treaty specifies X, but also this incredibly damning document. Well, that we just like said that at a meeting. Yeah, you know, that just got
I
said.
think your tagline is almost very smart. Your tagline is politics is dumb, but it's really important, right? So I would make a small adjustment to that. Our politicians fail us, and then we go to die for them, and they don't.
Stop
even-
with this fake anti-statism. You are a statist, okay? This isn't fun. Thank you for your,
yeah, I'm a
with your incredible wisdom of, dude, what if like we just did like do war? Thank you. Well, a war is
What about
happening.
like that, if like Putin actually applied to NATO? Like, what about that?
That happened 20 years ago. Is that seriously your advice?
Who
Is
did
that
not
your
apply
advice?
to NATO? Zelensky applied to NATO. Finland applied to NATO. Russia did not.
Then what are we
I'll tell you
talking
this,
about?
though. I'll tell you this. The
No,
USSR.
stop!
applied to
No,
NATO.
stop running around, okay? None of this means anything. You
USSR
are
applied to
you're,
NATO
you
never
are
happened.
the kind of guy who contributed to the environment that let your relatives die. You know why America didn't get involved in World War II earlier? Because pseudo anti-interventionist xenophobes called the America First movement, along with their allies, made a deliberate effort to gum up the works of American military intervention, and we did so with low IQ, fucking pseudo anti-interventionist language like, you know, the Nazis are doing some bad stuff over there, but, you know, would we really not